Okie dokie, I believe we are all the way live. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I am your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names of kicking candy ass, live and in living color here with you on Grande's Graveyard. Welcome back to another edition of the show where tonight we take a deep dive, not just under the sea with Dagon, no, but into the career of two horror masters. Of course, I am talking to you guys tonight about one Stuart Gordon and one HP Lovecraft. Yes, tonight on Grande's Graveyard, it is the Stuart Gordon HP Lovecraft special, if you will. I'm super excited. We're going to be talking about not one, not two, but three HP Lovecraft adaptations to film, of course, directed all by Stuart Gordon, all written by Mr. I believe his name is Dennis Paoli, and of course, all produced by Brian Usna. So there's a lot of people that are connected here. All three of these movies are connected. And another fun thing about this is each movie that we'll be talking about tonight is from a different decade. Of course, we'll have the movie to kick off the show, Re-Animator, from 1985. Love this movie. It's horror's greatest year, and I'm super excited to get into this one. Of course, we have Castle Freak from 1995, 10 years later, of course. And then finally, from the year 2001, this is Dagon. So Dagon, of course, the 2000s representative here. We've got three Gordon films, three Lovecraft adaptations, three Usna produced films, three scripts written by Dennis Paoli, and absolutely zero regrets tonight on Grande's Graveyard. Welcome all to the house. I hope everyone is having a lovely Thursday. We have Miss C is here. Ciao, Grande and friends. Welcome, Miss C. Hope all is well with you. Mateo is here. Hello, all. Mateo is not here. I'm sorry. AJ is here. I'm so used to Mateo and Miss C usually being the first two. So, Mateo, I apologize. AJ, I apologize. See, I keep thinking you're Mateo. Dagon? Where'd they go? Where'd they go? I don't know. By the end of this fucking movie, where did they go? Yeah, that's a good fucking question, to be honest. But I mean, we will get there. We will get to Dagon. I really am a big fan of all three of these movies. And I'm actually really excited to talk to all things Stuart Gordon tonight, because Stuart Gordon is someone that I actually, to this point on Grande's Graveyard, have never discussed. And I think it's a crime and shame that I haven't done that. And that's why tonight I said, hey, why don't we give Stuart Gordon a little love? Why don't we talk Stuart Gordon on Grande's Graveyard? And I figure before I get into the movies, I give a little bit of a background on Stuart Gordon's humble beginnings, where he came from, how he got into the whole HP Lovecraft thing and making so many horror film HP Lovecraft adaptations. So basically it all started where Stuart Gordon and his wife got married. And instead of going on a honeymoon, like, I don't know, 95 to 99% of all other couples that get married, they took all of their wedding gift money and all of their honeymoon money and invested it in a theater. And they were making plays at the time. And of course, they worked with all sorts of great talent. Of course, this was in the Chicago area. So AJ, shout out to my Chicago native here, Mr. AJ Zitro. Of course, Stuart Gordon, born and raised in Chicago, and he had that theater there. Of course, he worked with people like Joe Mantegna. Of course, he worked with, Jeffrey Combs, and we're going to work with Jeffrey Combs for the next 30 years. It's absolutely incredible the amount of talent they had in this one theater. And, the time came where Stuart Gordon was like, I'd really like to, instead of making plays, I'd like to make a film. And of course, this, whole idea came up of, well, what will we do? What's big right now? Well, vampires are really big right now. Of course, 1985, you get Fright Night. Of course, you look at the years to come, you get the Lost Boys, you get, Near Dark. Vampire movies were really the big kind of monster that was up and coming again. And then Stuart Gordon kind of being the guy to go against that grain, he said, well, vampires are big right now. Let's do a type of Frankenstein story, a reanimation story. And they said, well, we can definitely try to finance this. We can get this together, but, where are we going to get the creative from? And Stuart Gordon had always remembered that he grew up reading HP Lovecraft, and whether it be, Dreams in the Witch House was the first one he ever read, whether it be Dagon, whether it be, The Shadow over Innsmouth, whether it be, Herbert West Re-Animator, which was eventually the story he ended up adapting to the big screen. He was a diehard Lovecraft fan, and so am I. I mean, I'm a big H.P. Lovecraft fan. I don't know if a lot of people know this. I, in college, studied H.P. Lovecraft, took a course on H.P. Lovecraft. It was one of my favorite courses that I ever did. It was just so fun to read a ton of H.P. Lovecraft stories, try to find meaning, try to find, method to madness and the beauty of horror and all of these things. And, of course, when it comes to Lovecraft, it's all about the fear of the unknown. It's all about the, horrors of people, xenophobia. And of course, HP Lovecraft was not the greatest guy in the world. Again, we can get there, but Stuart Gordon was a big fan, and he wanted to, of course, come out with a Lovecraft adaptation. The theater he was a part of, they didn't want any part of it. They didn't want to finance it. They told him, you should invest in making art, not horror. Horror is too much. It's too weird for us. And so Stuart Gordon flew out to, of course, Los Angeles. He met there with Brian Usna and Dennis Paoli, and the three of them kind of sat down, watched horror movies, and decided, hey, let's do the adaptation of Herbert West's Re-Animator and make Re-Animator. And that was really the whole backstory of how Stuart Gordon came to be. And then, of course, Re-Animator, which we're going to talk about right here, was a big hit. And then his entire career, he made a lot of H.P. Lovecraft adaptations, and including a lot of other good films, whether it be Edmund, whether it be King of the Ants, whether it be Stuck. I mean, Stuart Gordon made a lot of great films. He made the remake of The Pit and the Pendulum, which is a damn good movie. I mean, I think Stuart Gordon is a fairly undersung master of horror here, and I'm pretty excited to talk about him tonight. We've got 3 films and no regrets from him. Notification Squad, smash the like button. Thank you, Mr. Labyrinth UFC Breakdown. Hope all is well with you, my friends. Subjective Perspective Collective. Dirk is in the house. What's happening, brother? Can't stay. We'll watch the replay. I have 6 films to watch by Sunday. Well, that is quite the task, quite the feat. We did half of that in the past 3 days. So hope all is well with you, man. I appreciate you stopping by, saying hi. Hey, everybody, big Stuart Gordon fan. Let's get Re-Animated. Hell yeah, Mernsy's in the house. Mernsy, great to have you here. I will say before I go, Re-Animator is the essential Lovecraft adaptation. Well, I mean, it's hard to argue with that because I do love me some Re-Animator. But before we get into Re-Animator, quick, what are my thoughts on Lovecraft? Because we're about to get into 3 Stuart Gordon movies, 3 HP Lovecraft adaptations, I want to give a little bit of thoughts on HP. Now, first and foremost, it can never go without being said that HP Lovecraft was not a good guy. In fact, he was sort of a creep, sort of a weirdo. What has the song? I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo. Yeah, he was a fucking creep. He was a weirdo. He was a xeno. He was xenophobic, which means the fear of people. He was scared to shit of people. He was an anti-Semitic. He was a racist. He was a bigot. He was, I mean, not a good guy. Not a good guy by any stretch of the imagination, to the point where in today's politically correct culture, H.P. Lovecraft literature never would have gotten published. That guy would have been fucking canceled before canceling even existed. And it's quite amazing to me because I was taking the college course right around the time where that cancel stuff started. So I don't even know if that course is around anymore. I'm really not too sure, to be perfectly honest with you. But I personally, being a horror fan, loving the genre like I do, it was so fun to study, a horror literature master in H.P. Lovecraft. And I liked, that he always wrote about the fear of the unknown. And he wrote stories where he would really, more times than not, leave it up to the viewer or / reader's imagination. And that's the thing I really appreciated about H.P. Lovecraft. There was my favorite H.P. Lovecraft story was these 2 kids, and they were trying to rob a grave. And one of them went down into the grave, and the other one said, hey, I'll stay up here. And I don't know what they were on. It was sort of like equivalent of a walkie-talkie. And they're talking to each other. And we stay outside of the grave the entire time with the one friend, while the other friend goes down into the fucking grave. And the rest of the story is just him describing what he's seeing. And man, when I read that, I was like, I get why H.P. Lovecraft is a fucking master of horror, because it's all about describing things that we're never going to see, that we're never going to experience, with just adjectives, right? Like, oh, it's horrible, it's grotesque, it's awful, it's awful, atrocious. It's all of these describing words. Well, what is it? Oh, it's up to you. It's up to you, Mr. Reader. That's up to you. Whatever the fuck you want it to be. What do you find atrocious? What do you find grotesque? What do you find appalling? These are the things that H.P. Lovecraft kind of, got you to do. They got you to fill in the blanks with your own brain. And of course, you can't talk about H.P. Lovecraft without Cthulhu, which is a big, monster and mythos and all that. I mean, the guy was really ahead of his time. And, this was a guy that would write in the early 1920s, even late 19 teens, if you will. He was writing stories, I actually have watched quite a few documentaries in the guy's life. He was a weird cat. He really did not like women, even though he had an experience with women at one point and it didn't end well. Just a weird cat, man. He was a weird, weird guy. And you can understand why all of this crazy nonsense came from his brain. And I think what's so poetic about it is I was watching an interview with Stuart Gordon on the Dagon Blu-ray, which is from Vestron, and I highly recommend for any people that have not seen Dagon. I'll get into reviewing this. The interview on this with Mick Garris interviewing Stuart Gordon. Stuart Gordon, was asked the question, "What do you think? What would HP Lovecraft say to you if he ever met you?" And he said, "Well, he would hate me." And he was like, why? All the adaptations, there are some people that know H.P. Lovecraft from Stuart Gordon's movies. And that is the truth. I never heard H.P. Lovecraft until I heard Re-Animator, until I heard Dagon, until I heard Castle Freak, until I heard about these movies that Stuart Gordon brought to the big screen. That's when I started hearing about H.P. Lovecraft. It wasn't like, we're the third grade kids. We're after the Roald Dahl book, after Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, we're going to read fucking The Call of Cthulhu. That wasn't a thing. It was through the movies that I discovered, Lovecraft. So I always thank Stuart Gordon for that. And of course, my college course later. But what I really appreciate, with him, what he said was, yeah, he would hate me. And, he was a famous anti-Semitic, but he found the beauty in his writing. He could separate the art from the artist. And I actually really appreciate that. I think that's not an easy thing to do, especially in today's day and age. And Stuart Gordon made a career out of it, and make no mistake about it. I do believe Stuart Gordon's a master of horror. I really believe he's a master of this genre. And I'm super excited to discuss all things Stuart Gordon and H.P. Lovecraft tonight on Grande's Graveyard. It's going to be a lot of fun. One more comment before we get into this. Slasher Fred is here. Stuart Gordon must have been a big fan of Alfred Hitchcock because the theme of Re-Animator. We'll get into that. We're going to get into that right now, Mr. Slasher Fred. Welcome, everybody. So everybody, cheers. Cheers. Cheers to a wonderful Thursday night and to a safe, happy, healthy weekend. All right, let's get underway with our first movie of the evening. This, from, in my opinion, horror's single greatest year. Of course, the year of 1985. They even made a song about this fucking year, 1985. I mean, the greatest year in horror's history, in my humble opinion. And man, in a sea of horror's greatest year, one of the few bright, stars that is always remembered along with that year. Of course, this star is a glowing, bright, glow-in-the-dark green. This is Stuart Gordon's film from the, of course, works of H.P. Lovecraft. This is Re-Animator. Yes. After an odd new medical student arrives on campus, a dedicated local and his girlfriend become involved in bizarre experiments centering around the reanimation of dead tissue. Yes, Re-Animator. This was a very interesting horror movie to come about at the time. And like I just told you with the foreground with all Stuart Gordon's, stuff and, being in the theater and they had no faith in it. And he meets Brian Usna and Brian Usna said, hey, we can make it unrated. We can make it for cheap. We can make it however you want to make it. We'll give you complete creative control over this son of a bitch. And Stuart Gordon was, free to fly with the reins. And so, this is an interesting movie to come along at the time because this came out right around the same time as Romero's Day of the Dead, as Dan O'Bannon's Return to the Living Dead. And here you have a different type of zombie film, and I know there are some people that will even tell you, oh, it's barely a zombie film. No, this is a zombie film, in my opinion. And man, this one shines just as bright, if not brighter than both of those. And that's incredible to say. And in the year of horror's greatest efforts, in my opinion, as a whole, I don't think there was a single year and as a whole that was better than 85. Re-Animator shines so bright. And I think it's because of the humor, of the grotesque over-the-topness of the lead performance from Jeffrey Combs, who would go on to be, everyone's favorite, B-movie star. I mean, we all love Jeffrey Combs. Jeffrey Combs makes his name in this movie as Dr. Herbert West. Make no mistake about it. This is one of those movies that just has everything that you're looking for if you're a horror fan, especially if you're a 1980s horror fan. I always say I like movies that are distinctly 1970s. This one is distinctly 1980s. This is right in the smack middle of 1980. And man, I just absolutely adore this thing. And I got to lead off with the cast because the cast is just absolutely fantastic. Of course, like I said, you do have Jeffrey Combs as the lead as Herbert West, which, of course, at the beginning, he starts off as maybe he's this villain, but in my opinion, he's sort of an anti-hero. I always saw Herbert West as an anti-hero. I always saw this guy as, yeah, he goes through all these crazy measures that may not be morally sound, but at the end of the day, his goal is to stop death, is to defeat death. And in my opinion, how crazy can you be? I mean, why is that such a crazy idea, to defeat the ultimate disease, to defeat death itself? I mean, I don't think he's that crazy. I know he does some immoral things. I know the guy is not a saint. We're not going to nominate him for sainthood, but he wants to make this. He wants to, stop people from dying. And I think that's so cool. I really always liked his character in the yin yang, and that opening scene, that wonderful opening scene with the great John Carl Buechler, who does the special makeup effects with this, alongside practical effects students, because they didn't have money to hire a practical effect team like a Greg Nicotero and company. They had to use young up-and-comers and pay them nothing, alongside John Carl Buechler, who I'm sure got a paycheck. But I think it's so funny. They use John Carl Buechler and this class of kids to do the special makeup effects. And man, the special makeup effects in this movie are incredible. The opening scene with the guy and his eyes are popping out, and the blood pouring down and everybody's screaming, and "You killed him." "I did not. I gave him life." And then, of course, we get that awesome, boom, ba-boom, the amazing opening credit sequence, which I know everyone says that the Psycho score is ripped off. And yes, it is, but I do know that Charlie Band was the guy who did the score, and he was trying to pay homage to the Psycho score, even to the point where, he said it in interviews. He was like, "Oh, this is my big homage. I'm taking Psycho into the 80s. But he got in big trouble. A lot of people were fucking pissed about it, especially, the Bernard Herrmann score. I don't know if Bernard Herrmann was still with us at this time, but I don't know if the Bernard Herrmann estate got pissed, but people got pissed, and he got in some fucking hot water over that score at the beginning. Boom, bum, bum, ba, 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 bum. I mean, such a good score as we get these opening, just bright neon colors of bright purples and pinks and greens, to sort of invite us into this world that Stuart Gordon creates before our eyes. It's just wonderful opening to a film. And then, of course, we're introduced to Bruce Abbott's character of Dan Cain, who's sort of the straight man in this. Of course, Dan Cain would go on to be in movies like Bad Dreams. And I always felt that he had the look of an A-list actor, but he quite never made it, I guess. I don't know how to explain it. Like how do I phrase this? He was a good-looking guy, looked like he could be an A-list actor, and it just never seemed to happen. So, I mean, it is what it is. But he plays our straight man here in the opening scene. He's this dedicated young college student that is, willing to learn and wants to become a great doctor someday. And then, of course, they lose a patient in the opening scene, and he's trying so hard to bring the patient back to life. He can't accept defeat. He's one of those young people that can't swallow, I don't want to say necessarily swallow pride, but he can't swallow defeat. He can't swallow, okay, the patient's gone. A good doctor knows when to stop. And it's funny, the doctor telling him that, the woman is Stuart Gordon's wife, which I thought was always so cool. Like, oh my God, that's such a cool way to use your wife. And, instead of making her a lead with a fucking white horse running around, I think it's really nice to see, it's just a bit role as a doctor saying, hey, kid, we can't save them all. I know, I appreciate it. We appreciate you trying, but you can't save them all. A good doctor knows when to stop. And I think that sets up an interesting arc for his character that later on, we see what happens towards the end. Of course, if you know this movie, of course, we have Barbara Crampton, who, in my opinion, is just one of the most beautiful women in horror's history, especially the 1980s, an undersun screen queen. Just some of the most beautiful, bright blue eyes that you'll ever see. And man, she has a great screen presence to her. I think she has a great acting talent, and she's not necessarily able to show it much here, but in the following film we'll discuss, Castle Freak, I think she steals that movie. I think Barbara Crampton is just a wonderful talent, beautiful woman, and someone I actually would like to meet. I don't know if she does many East Coast conventions, but man, I always would like to meet Barbara Crampton. I just think she's aged amazing, man. She's still looks fucking great. Like Barbara Crampton, Babs and me, I would buy Babs a fucking drink, all right? I would fucking treat Grammy Babs. How fucking old is Babs? I want to see how old Barbara Crampton is, because, man, I would still party with Babs. I'm just saying. Oh, my God. She's fucking old, though. She's in fucking Levittown? Holy shit. I did not fucking know that. I'm not too far from Levittown. Yo, Babs is, how fucking old is that? Does that be... Babs is 65. All right, maybe. All right, we'll still buy Babs a drink, but I don't know. I think Babs is a little fucking dried up. Babs needs to be reanimated, all right? You know what I mean? But I'd still party with Babs, if you will. Just a beautiful woman. I always like to see her here. This is the movie that kind of got her career off the ground. Hey, hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Sean Blue Digital's in the house. He was saying Thursday's his favorite day. I can't argue with him, my friend. Happy to have you here. I won't be as active in the chat tonight trying to do stuff around the house, but still listening. Missy, I appreciate you. You're one of my biggest fans, and I appreciate your all kind comments, likes, support. It humbles me. We have the dead being reanimated, but they're just not running around and wanting to eat brains. Yeah, to me, it's close enough. ATG Nat Podcast is here. What are you doing around the house, Miss C? Okay, that's an odd question. I love Herbert Westline. You won't get credit for my discovery. Who will believe a talking head? Why don't you get a job in a sideshow? I love that too. The humor here is just great. I don't know. It sounds like Vanilla Ice paying homage to Under Pressure with Ice Ice Baby. I mean, yeah, but I think the score works. I think it's so fun. It's such a taking the Psycho theme into the 1980s. They didn't even do that with Psycho 2. They do it here, which I don't know. For me, it helps the film have an identity. And I think the music really helps the tone of this movie because it is kind of funny. It is kind of more of a splatstick horror comedy. I mean, there are serious scenes in it, but it's more of a fun 80s, cheese fest. And that's why I embrace Re-Animator. That's why I think, why this movie stands out is because Stuart Gordon initially wanted it to be serious. And he would even tell people on set, now I'm looking for a serious horror movie here. I'm looking for a serious horror movie here. And Brian Usna was the guy that said, hey, if we're going to come onto the scene right now, all these great movies are coming out. We've just got to fucking push the envelope as far as we can go. And this movie does go over the top. But I think in the best way possible. I really believe that. I think that's what I don't think this movie would work as a serious, dramatic. I don't think it would work. I think Re-Animator, part of the charm is kind of the tongue-in-cheek nature of it, the kind of winking at you as it goes along. It knows it's funny. It knows the sense of humor of, when he decapitates the head and he can't get the head to stand. And so he puts the paper stand and just stuck to the head so it will stand. And the proverbial, the head giving head, of course, of the character putting his head into the snatch of one Barbara Crampton. That's just the most amazing writing ever. Who the fuck would think of that? Just so much fun. To think of that. Mayan is here. Hello, Mayan. Hope all is well with you. Crampton will be in Motor City Nightmares. Just saying. Should I take a flight to meet 65-year-old Babs? Hell yeah, let's do it. Re-Animator has one of the best opening scenes. Just hooks you. Yeah, no, exactly. And man, another thing, this movie's so damn short. The initial cut of this movie was going to be 135 minutes. And they cut it down to 84 minutes. That's wild. That's almost a full hour of cutting out of this. 51 minutes to be exact was cut out of this movie. And I honestly think for the better. Again, I don't think we don't want the Snyder cut. We don't want a 2+ hour cut of fucking Re-Animator. We don't need that. This movie is perfect the way it is. It's absolutely perfect the way it is. I really would not change a thing. We have Cooper Glover in the house. Hey, Grande, Cooper Glover. Hope all is well with you, my friend. Just some housework, boring stuff. Yeah, Re-Animator is kind of funny. Yeah, exactly. I agree. I think it's very funny. And of course, I'd be remiss to not mention the late great David Gale, who plays Dr. Carl Hill in this, who, in my opinion, other than Jeffrey Combs, almost steals this fucking thing. We all remember David Gale's character in this. And I know, like I was saying, they cut a lot out of this. Initially, he had a lot more screen time, and there was going to be a whole subplot where he was a hypnotist, and he was, putting people under hypnosis and all of these things. And what happened was, at the end, that was what they were going to do to explain that he could control all the undead. And then Brian Usna was like, listen, there's a lot of scenes of this, and it really, aside from fucking the one thing at the ending, it really doesn't matter. And they were like, yeah, let's just cut it entirely. So 51 minutes of this was left on the cutting room floor, crazy enough. And that was a majority of it. Granted, I'm sure there was other things that got cut. I mean, there have to be. 51 minutes. You can't tell me there was a 51-minute subplot of hypnosis. I don't believe that. I mean, there had to be some other good stuff cut, which sucks. But I mean, it is what it is. David Gale on this is so fucking fantastic, though, of course, it starts off where you think Herbert West is maybe the villain, and then it kind of leads into him being the villain and wanting to steal West's ideas. And of course, he has all these evil plots and, I have a plan too. Just so creepy as he starts to control the dead and have them attack, our core 3 characters. I really like him in this. And I watched the documentary on this, and they had nothing but nice things to say about his character. But my favorite story about this whole movie was actually what he had said. He walked up to, of course, Stuart Gordon after. David Gale walked up to him after they wrapped. And the last day, they actually did shoot this movie, I think, sequentially. So the last day they shot that crazy finale with, of course, the guy holding his head, and they did, all these sort of makeup effects and camera angles and shots. And apparently John Carl Beaker was saying that the actor was in great uncomfort, and they were all trying to please him and please don't get mad, please don't get mad. And he was like, get mad. And he walked to the Stuart Gordon and he was like, listen, he's like, I want to tell you something, I want to admit something to you. And Stuart Gordon said, what's going on? And he said, I want to just say that maybe this movie reanimated me. And I think, like, that's why I love horror. Like, for a veteran old actor to come up to a young first-time director and say, you know what, of all the fucking movies I've done, I've gotten tired, I've gotten rusty, I've gotten bland, I've gotten sick of it. I've gotten sick of all of this stuff. And maybe, just maybe, this shot in the arm, this reanimation fluid to the soul, maybe it reanimated me in my career, in my life. And I always loved that story from David Gale's perspective. I just thought it was wonderful. And unfortunately, he would die just 6 years later. He would die due to open heart surgery complications. So rest in peace, David Gale, who I think is just wonderful in this as the villain. Of course, we could see him on the cover here, and you, and of course Herbert, you. I love that he gets so excited as a kid. You, like, let me get a pen. Like, let me write what you say, because he's, of course, decapitated the doctor. I always thought that was just such a riot. That scene of humor. First time I watched Re-Animator was in the 90s. I didn't care for it that much. Then I saw the Anchor Bay released on DVD, and then it sparked my interest to want to see it again. I ended up loving it. Yeah, no, definitely, man. It is weird. Sometimes you'll watch a film, not feel much about it, and then later on, it just becomes one of your faves. It definitely happens. It really does. Let's see. Trenchy's here. Hey, what's up, Trenchy? Welcome, my friend. Re-Animator is awesome. I do prefer Bride, but the first one is awesome and a fun in its own right. The pencil scene is fantastic. Of course, the pencil scene and the amount of tension in that room, you can absolutely cut it with a knife. Where, of course, Jeffrey Combs keeps breaking the pencils, and of course, David Gale's getting more mad and mad by the minute. And I suggest, Mr. West, next time you bring a pen. I love that. And it'll be a fail. It'll be a pleasure to fail you, Mr. West. I love the combation of the clash in styles there of her was saying, you're old school, you're passe, I've read your books, they're nonsense, you're dribble, you're filling these kids' heads with dribble before they even have a chance. How do you call yourself a Mr. West? As the two of them have great screen chemistry. I mean, I just love their back and forth banter in the beginning of this. And then, of course, we have a lot of fun scenes in this. Of course, we have Barbara Crampton. No, he's kind of hugging her. No, and then, of course, the next scene it cuts to without a fucking phase is them banging in bed. Yes, she's getting plowed in bed. And then, all right, I'm going to go for a sandwich. And then, of course, the whole dead cat scene, where why didn't you tell me the cat was dead? What was I supposed to do? Leave a note? Like, he's like, what was I supposed to? Cat is dead. Details later. I mean, I love the way Jeffrey Combs delivered that line. Just so funny. Like, what was I supposed to do? I'm very busy pushing around dead bodies here. I don't have time to write dead notes for dead cats. I don't have time for it. God damn it. I mean, it's so funny, man. I just absolutely love, Herbert West's character. He's just such a great character. James Abernathy is here. Just woke up to join you here. Re-Animator is one of the movies I watch while trying to immerse myself in watching horror rather than things just about horror. Well, that's really cool. A lot of people seem to grow up with this one. I see AJ's no exception. A fun VHS rental as a kid. What's funny is, in my personal story, and which is we'll come full circle when we get to this movie later. This was the first Stuart Gordon HP Lovecraft movie I ever watched. So I'll tell that tale later. But it was because of this movie that I found Re-Animator. It was everyone's, have you seen Re-Animator? Because I mentioned I liked Stuart Gordon's Dagon. Wait, have you seen Re-Animator? And then I immediately went to the store, and of course, I fell in love with Re-Animator from the first time I watched it. I just thought it was brilliant. Found out about Re-Animator by watching American Beauty. Although they mentioned it in a scene, and it sounded awesome. It's now one of my all-time faves. Oh my God. Yeah, that's so cool, man. Yeah, no, that's the scene with, I think Wes Bentley is telling him, he's like, what was that movie? Oh yeah, Re-Animator. That's right. Re-Animator. I love, American Beauty is a great fucking movie. People saying hi to one another. Sean Blue Digital saying, "Oh, I didn't know about that. I wanted to see American Beauty just to hear that." Yeah, no, it's a great scene. That's a great film too. People saying hi to her. I had heard so much about the head giving head. I had to see how far they would go with it. Yeah, no, and it's. I mean, people remember that about this movie. That's another thing of pushing the envelope. Like, you can never go too far in a 1980s movie where they really do go for it. It's like, fuck it. It's like, envelope, keep pushing it. Like, oh, we have crazy cat attack and they break its back. And oh my God, you made a mistake, Mr. West. The cat was never dead. Is it dead now? Would you agree that it's dead now? Oh, okay. He drops it on the thing. He goes, I don't expect it to tango, but I'm gonna put it back to life. It puts the thing in it, and it's like, it's all fucking mangled on and back broken and all that. And okay, maybe you have a point. Like, he slowly but surely, convinces Bruce Abbott's character, the Dan Kane character, he slowly convinces him that this can work and that this can be a revolutionary breakthrough. And it does pose to me, even though it's a cheesy, fun, wild and out horror movie, it does pose an interesting question of, are people better off, just dying peacefully? Or is of course, to quote the legendary Judd Crandall in Pet Sematary 4 years later, sometimes dead is better. People come back, but they're not the same. They're out of control. Some of them don't remember who they are. Some of them go into a frantic panic. You get that kind of interesting question to the viewer, I always felt, with this. And of course, that is a big question for the lead character, because of course we saw this guy at the beginning of Bruce Abbott who was upset that he let a patient go. He tried his best to save her and save her life. And of course, he had to throw it in. He had to throw this towel in, and he absolutely was like just distraught and broken up about that. And then of course he posed the question later on in the film towards the end where, the same thing is presented to him and the woman he loves, and Barbara Crampton. Will you reanimate her? Will you stick this vial in her neck, this bright green, vial? And what it was of course, a glow stick. It was a glow stick juice. And I think they went through gallons of glow stick juice to make this movie, to have that bright green neon, syringe. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant. But I thought it was really interesting to pose that pose that question to the viewer of, oh my God, could he go about reanimating the woman he loves? And now he has the chance to do it. And everything he's seen before has not gone well. But what would you do to save the woman you love? Would you reanimate her? I think so. I know it morally, it's a no, but if you really do feel that way for somebody, yeah, absolutely. And I also think there's some interesting themes there with Barbara Crampton saying, hey, like, we can fucking reanimate together. Like, we could procreate together. Like, you're trying to, create all this life, like some kind of 1980s Dr. Frankenstein. And I'm here standing in front of you, and we can have our own family of our own. We can make a family of our own, and, her West idea, who needs a woman? Who needs a woman to do that? And I think it's a very interesting kind of, it's almost like an 80s Frankenstein. It really is. Like, it's a much, 1980s Frankenstein. That's why I always really appreciate it. Even then, they keep the same color of concept of green. Of course, Frankenstein's skin is always that classic green, which is something I always really liked. Let's see. Is Re-Animator 3 any good? Only one I haven't seen. Honestly, Re-Animator 3 is very cheap, and it really misses, of course, the Dan Kane character who's not in it. It's basically him in a prison. I never cared for it. Actually, I feel like bad about this trench. I never was really big on Bride of Re-Animator either. I always felt it's like basically Re-Animator, but with half the budget. Like, that's how I always kind of felt about Bride of Re-Animator. It's not bad, but it's not as good. It's not nearly as good to me. It sorely misses Stuart Gordon. Of course, that's the difference. If you want to watch the difference between Stuart Gordon as a director and then, of course, Brian Usna as a director, you could watch those two movies. You can see the difference, where this movie, I think, has a lot more style and usage of the camera, where, the David Gale character, his head is here at points. They have his head on the swivel at some points. Every single scene, they kind of do something different with the head. It's not just one. It could have been lazy and just done like this and had him, on his knees in the back and the shot around it. They did so many different things to make it look like this guy's head was really severed and he was still talking. I appreciate that. I think that's the show of a good director, and Stuart Gordon, would only go on to get better style-wise. Is Grande wearing a Creepshow 2 shirt? The Raft? Hell yeah, man. This lovely bonbon titled The Raft. I mean, probably my favorite creep show story of all of them. I mean, I absolutely love it. It's so cool. When I met Michael Gornick at the Living Dead weekend, I talked to him a little bit about it. We talked more. What's funny, we talked Dark Side more. We talked the circus from Tales from the Dark Side, which I was like, oh my God, like I fucking love that episode. He's like, yeah, Romero wrote it and I fucking directed it. He said it's like a creep show 2 segment that never. I was like, yeah, it's pretty much it. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. I don't like Re-Animator 3 that much, Trenchy, but it seems like a lot of people really enjoy that one, and you might like it too. It's more comedy than horror, if you ask me. Yeah, and it's like, I love Jeffrey Combs. Jeffrey Combs can carry anything. Jeffrey Combs is one of the best talents out there. He really is. And this is the movie where he made his name. Like, Jeffrey Combs becomes a household name after Re-Animator. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, I think what I really liked was, the chemistry of the duo, Bruce Abbott and like the team of the two of them. I thought that was a big reason why Re-Animator was a better sequel than Beyond Re-Animator, which is the third one. We have Alpha Romero is here. What's up, my dude? Welcome, Alpha Romero. Well, we were just talking Creepshow 3. That's crazy. As you say Romero, hey, will come. Definitely a take on Frankenstein. The sequel is even called Bride. Totally, yeah, exactly. I just love the creatures in part 2 and how crazy it is, but I see why people wouldn't like Bride. I don't know if I hate it. It's not okay. It's definitely not one of the worst sequels. It's just not. I don't think it's half as good as this movie. Like, this movie is like amazing. I don't even know if you ever really needed a sequel. Like, I don't know if you needed a sequel to Re-Animator. Bride of Re-Animator is pretty fun, and the gore really helps it to sell it. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Grande. I'll give it a chance, but won't get high hopes. Yeah, no. If you definitely will not like it as much as Bride of Re-Animator. If you like the first two, I definitely think it's a step down. The Raft is probably my favorite Creepshow episode 2, Grande. Of the ones I remember, it had an interesting concept. Oh, the Raft is a fucking masterpiece. I love the Raft. I mean, that's again 1980s at its best. But yeah, no, I mean, so many fun scenes in this. Of course, the security guard. I always love the security guard in this, who's just burning around, bumming around, being a bum, reading fucking Hustler and shit. And there's a scene where he comes in to check out what's going on, and somebody's head gets thrown into the wall. He looks and just fucking dips. Like, that would so be me. I did security for 8 years. I would so be that security guard. He's just like, yeah, that was just a decapitated head. It got thrown against the fucking wall. I'm out of here, bro. I am fucking history. Goodbye. Thank you for coming. I think that's great. Just some of the chaos that happens in this, man. It's so wild. It's just so wild and fun. To me, a 1980s staple. I really believe this is a 1980s staple. I really don't believe you could have, the 1985 year as itself, and then the decade as a whole without Re-Animator. I do think this is, I don't know if it's a top 10 1980s horror movies is really tough. I mean, it's hard, just by names. I mean, The Shining would have to be on there. Elm Street would have to be on there. We could go all day. But in my opinion, even though I don't know if this would make my top 10 1980s horror movies, it would, number one, definitely be 1985 top 10. And I think it's a 10 out of 10. Like, it has everything. Like I said, it has the humor. It has the deep, thought-provoking kind of theme of, is it better to reanimate, or should we just leave well enough alone? It has, so many creative shots, so many creative, special makeup effects that were done for pretty much nothing. Were done for free by these group of kids, and of course, John Carl Buechler. Just absolutely incredible stuff. I think Stuart Gordon hit a home run with this. And I know he said in the documentary that the theater that initially he, bought and he took a leave of absence from to make this regretted the decision not to have him shoot it there on the stage. And they were very regretful in that, because Re-Animator was a movie that brought life, pun intended, I guess, to the 1980s in horror. And it was just one of those another movies that just struck a nerve. And it seems over time has become more and more and more of a cult hit. It's become a cult classic in a lot of ways. And I love Re-Animator. For me, Re-Animator is a 10 out of 10. I don't have any issues with the fucking movie. I think it's so fucking good. Absolutely a diehard fan of this one. High recommendation from Re-Animator. My ears were burning. Your ears were burning. Hey, everybody. They are all fun, but the OG is top-notch horror flick thrown on every October. That's awesome, man. Agreed, Mernsey. Let's see. Speaking of Frankenstein, there was a 1985 remake of Bride of Frankenstein called just The Bride. Stars the now late Julian Sands. May he rest in peace, the Warlock, and Jennifer Beals. Let's see. Day Return, Re-Animator, Friday 5. What a great year for horror. In my opinion, the best. I really, Fright Night, Elm Street 2. If I fucking brought up we'd be here all day if I brought up 1985. One of these days, I will do a show. I should just do a show on 1985 horror, Life Force. I mean, so many fucking kick-ass banger horror movies that I'd love to discuss down the road. Hey, Alpha and Carter, by the way, it's after midnight for me, but if it's still the 6th for you, it's still my birthday. Dude, happy birthday. Everybody wish James a happy birthday, man. James Abernathy, happy B-Day, my friend. Hope all is well with you. Yeah, 85 killed it for horror. Dude, man. And really, like this is the thing I always say after, and people get upset, but I think it's the truth. I don't think 86, 87, 88, 89, like the rest of the 80s, they have their classics. They definitely have their standouts, but I think the top half of the 80s was the best. Like 80 to 85 is so much fucking better than like 86 to 89. It's just like not even a comparison to me. I really think 85, it peaked. And then like 86, 87, 88, maybe things got a little too silly. I don't know. That's kind of the way I always felt. But granted, they're in between those years. With those years, you do have some classic, all-time classic horror movies. So it's hard to overgeneralize like this. People saying happy birthday to James. Friday the 5 is by far my favorite Friday the 13th film. Well, that makes me too, because it's my favorite Friday the 13th film. We're going to get together next time. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. The best kills, the best characters, the awesome look of Jason, the blue mask. I always thought that was great. The whole theme of going back to the original of, this is about a parent that's grieving the loss of their child. Always liked that. I loved the fucking, there's a man with no life in his eyes. Friday 5 to me is the best Friday the 13th film. It has the most nudity. It's just such a fucking great movie. I never, ever got the hate for people saying it's a bad slasher movie. It's like, that is exactly what you want in a slasher movie. It's exactly what you want. It has everything a good slasher movie should have. I never got the hate. Oh, it's not Jason at the end. It's a fucking guy in a hockey mask killing people for 90 minutes. What the fuck else do you want? I don't know. Just ridiculous. There's a man. Dude, amazing. Violet, and they call me Reggie the Reckless. Love Friday 5. I'm stoked you're a fan of it too, because that's easily my favorite Friday film. I've done a few Friday 13 specials, and that's always my number one. I love Friday 13 Part 5. So, but I guess I've that tangent. That is Re-Animator, a 10 out of 10 for me. The perfect blend of horror, of comedy, of absolute wildness, a young up-and-comer in Stuart Gordon coming into his own, with the low budget and using creativity and pushing the envelope further than it ever had been pushed to that point. And to be mentioned along names of Romero and Dan O'Bannon, who came up with zombie efforts in that year, with a movie that I think does stand its own and is like Alfred Romero just mentioned it in the same sentence with all those other movies. Like, that's special. That's not just two movies that you just name in a sentence. Like, those are two of the best movies ever, Day of the Dead and Return of the Living Dead. And it's right along there with it. It's just great gore, as Mernzy's saying right here. I am a huge fan of Re-Animator. I highly recommend if you have not seen it. If you haven't seen it, I think you got to get out of the rock you're living under, because, man, it's just that fucking special. My mistake, it was Sting who was the bride, Julian Sands, who was in the movie Gothic, which sort of biographic film of what inspired Mary Shelley to write Frankenstein. Okay, fair enough. People still saying happy birthday, great gore. Don't forget the genius of it. Horse shit, I got a bomb on me. You eat your fucking salad. Who the fuck are you? What the fuck do you want? You fucking clean all the shit out of the pigeon coop, and then I'll fill your stomach. You want fucking ugly man, You big dildo. Ethel Hubbard. Good morning, Ethel. Wow, you look lovely today. Horse shit. Carol Locatell, may she rest in peace. I know she passed away a few months ago. Oh, man, it would have been so great to meet her. I would have met her and paid her to curse me out on camera. I think that would have been amazing. Thanks, everyone. Okay, I don't know, Grande. I tend to like cheesy horror. I find it much more fun than mainstream straight horror, but maybe that's just me. No, it's not just you. Like, here's the thing. We're about to get into two follow-ups. Of course, Stuart Gordon, of course, after this would go to make From Beyond, which is also a very fun movie. It's very much in the world of Re-Animator. Like, it's very tonally, it's very similar. And I think that's why From Beyond and Re-Animator are always the two Stuart Gordon movies that people point to and go, yes, like those are the ones. Of course, then he would go on to make Dolls. He would go on to remake The Pit and the Pendulum. He had a really nice run for quite some time and even ventured out of horror for a couple of titles. But these are the movies that get remembered. It's those first two. It's Re-Animator and From Beyond, because they have that same tone, that 80s feel, that 80s cheese, gore splat type of splat stick humor that I think people enjoy. The next two movies we'll talk about, Castle Freak and Dagon, respectively, they don't have the fan base, and they're both more serious. They don't have much camp in them. They don't have much fun in them. They're more, dreary, serious, exploitative in some ways, horror movies. And I do think, Miss C, that actually I would say you're in the majority. I think more people like the type of horror that you're mentioning you like better than the serious stuff. I mean, that would just be I really believe that. I really believe that. I don't know if I'm overgeneralizing here. I don't know if people in the chat want to weigh in, but I do believe that. I mean, do you ever ask people, oh, what's the golden era of horror? 1980s. Like that's immediately what people will say. Well, I think 1980s, one of the first movies that comes to my mind is this. And that just defines the fucking decade. It really does. I mean, it really, really does. But let me get back to the chat here. Wes is here. I am the Ice Lord. Good evening, Grande. Ciao, my friend. Hope all is well with you, my friend. 1985 horror topic would be really cool. I'm sure you'll get around to that eventually. I did, funny enough, the first time I ever worked with Wes, we did a stream, I believe, on 1985 horror movies on his channel. So that does exist. I don't remember what he called the stream. I believe it might have been Ninth Circle of Hell, I think. And it was one of the episodes with me. So, man, working with Wes, just a great, great guy. And we talked all things 1985 horror. But I'll do a graveyard on it one day as well because I'm such a huge I love cheesy horror, Miss C. See, Ice Lord is here. Hell yeah. Loving every minute of it. Dude, awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that. Castle Freak is awesome, and Barbarian took a lot from it. Yeah, that's true. That is very true. We'll get right into that. So, okay, I guess moving on, a decade later, we of course, I mentioned he had done Dolls, he had done From Beyond, he had done The Pit and Pendulum, he had done the Kid Safe video, which I'm sure a lot of people don't even know what the fuck that is. But, I mean, it is neither here nor there. We could talk about it at some point. But this next movie here is fucking great. In my opinion, it's the most is it the most underrated of these three? It's close. It's definitely one of the most underrated of his filmography. It's this or the last film I'll talk about tonight. It's these two for sure. This is from the year 1995 now, 10 years later. This is Castle Freak. Yes, Castle Freak, of course, from 1995. I have a brief plot synopsis. A troubled couple and their blind daughter come to Italy to visit a 12th century castle they've inherited. Soon, they are plagued by unexplained noises, mysteriously broken objects, and their daughter's claims of an unknown nocturnal visitor to her bedroom. When the housekeeper and local prostitute are discovered savagely murdered in the castle's dungeon, John must unlock the castle's secret to save himself from jail and his family from the castle's secret inhabitant. Yes, Castle Freak. Yes, Castle Freak from, of course, the year 1995, which was a dead year in horror. I mean, horror wasn't happening in 1995. That was, if you look at decade after horror's greatest year, I think 1995 has got to be up there for one of horror's weakest and most quiet years. To almost to the point where this didn't get a theatrical release because of poor distribution, because of poor budgeting. Of course, Full Moon Pictures was the distribution company, and had they had the budget, they would have liked to put this in the theater, but they didn't. They used a lot of that money to actually make the film. In fact, to the point where the castle that it shot on in location is owned by one of the Band brothers. I mean, that's how fucking low budget this was. He was like, hey, fucking shoot it in my castle. Fuck it, come on, That's where this was shot, on site in his fucking castle. And another interesting thing about this, the poster, which I think, for my money, that's got to be a top 10 horror poster of all time. It has, it has sex appeal, as the blue-red font, as the Castle Freak in the background, the classic cliched lightning strike, hideous, hungry, and loose. Castle Freak. Just love that. I think that's some iconic poster art. And for years, I always wanted that one sheet. I would have had the one sheet up down here in some way, shape, or form. The movie had so little money, they could not afford to produce one sheet posters. There's not a one sheet poster of Castle Freak out other than the one that Stuart Gordon happened to see in the band studio. He said, hey, what's that? What movie is that? Did I miss that? And he said, no, that's never been made. He said, well, what was it going to be about? He says, well, there's a castle and there's a freak behind this girl. That's it. And he was like, that's it? You didn't fucking, you don't have a script? You don't have an idea? You don't have nothing? he was like, well, no, unless you're interested in making it. And Stuart Gordon said, yeah, I love the challenge. So what he did, of course, he went back to the book of Lovecraft. Okay, what Lovecraft story could I find, and make into a movie called Castle Freak? And of course, he picked The Outsider. And The Outsider is an awesome little short story. Granted, this is more of a loose adaptation of that, but it definitely does have the themes there. Same thing with Dagon. Like Dagon, this is more Shadow over Innsmouth than Dagon, the short story, the two short stories. They just use the short story name of Dagon and the idea of fish people, but the rest of it is Shadow over Innsmouth. I mean, this easily could have been called Shadow over Innsmouth, in my opinion, because, of course, these are famous Lovecraftian stories. But, of course, right off the bat, again, you have a wonderful cast. You have Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton, 10 years later coming back to collaborate with, of course, Stuart Gordon. And Jeffrey Combs is playing a much different character here. Here he plays John Riley, who was at the forefront of a fatal car crash for his young son, JJ, who was just 5 years old. And of course, he went to pick him and the daughter up. It's a rainstorm. He's telling JJ to sit down in the seat. He's drunk and he veers off the road. JJ dies and the daughter goes blind from it. And then, of course, we fast forward to like 9 to 10 months later, and he's inherited this wonderful castle and he's trying to save his family. He's trying to save his marriage. He's trying, in a lot of ways, to start over his life from the tragedy of losing a child. And of course, we get, alongside a great exploitative, cannibalistic horror film, we get a very interesting, dramatic horror family picture here, which I thought was such a breath of fresh air, considering the Lovecraft adaptation that Stuart Gordon was doing in the 1980s. The 1980s, it was throw gore at it, push the envelope, keep moving forward. That was the goal. That was the mentality. That was the era of the 1980s. And I think there was no better direction to go. But fast forward 10 years down the road, and the genre is dead. The genre is bleeding dry. And out comes Castle Freak, in my opinion. And man, I think it's a damn good movie. It's so fucking good. And it's so much deeper than any Stuart Gordon movie that came before or after this. It's so fucking deep, in my opinion. As we follow this family, this dysfunctional family that's kind of crumbling at the seams. And of course, Barbara Crampton has not had sexual activity with Jeffrey Combs for these 9-10 months because she's so disgusted in him. And she really does truly wish that it had been him instead of course, their son, JJ, their 5-year-old innocent son, JJ. And there's a great scene between them. I actually put the dialogue here. His ghost was here. He's trying to, Jeffrey Combs is trying to believe that the son's ghost is maybe inhabiting the castle when all these weird things start to happen. Of course, we know it's the Castle Freak, but he's thinking, oh my God, could it be the ghost of my long lost son? It was his ghost. It was here. No, it's your conscience, John. You're just in serious denial. You don't realize it. It always is the same thing. It's never your fault. Your father was responsible for your drinking problem. The university fired you because you're politically incorrect. And now you're trying to use JJ's ghost. It's not JJ's ghost, John. It's you. You are the one who's driving drunk. You blinded Becky. You killed our son. And what's left? You just punishing me? And Jeffrey Combs is crying. And yes, because God didn't. He just let you walk away without a scratch. And what do you want me to do? I wish it could have been me. And Barbara Crampton. So do I. I mean, that scene right there is just so heartfelt and deep, of these two people passionately, angrily yelling at each other over the death of their son, which easily could have been avoided, of course, and Jeffrey Combs trying to move on. And it's just so hard to do that when something like that happens, a family tragedy like that happens. It's just so hard to rebound from, if you will. Wes says, Grande, you're a good man. We have to stream again, dude. Dude, you're a good man. Absolutely. Anytime, man. You're always welcome. Ella, you're not alone. Miss Carter had no desire to dive into the Amityville movies after 3D. Well, there you go. Kind of like Carter here, but I tend to like the movies. Okay, fair enough. Castle Freak on a leash. Hell yeah, we love me some. We're about to get Castle Freaky with Babs that don't take themselves too seriously. Well, that's why it's fun to talk about Castle Freak right after, because this movie does take itself very seriously. From what I can remember of Castle Freak, the Freak kind of makes me laugh. I enjoyed the film. Really? See, the Castle Freak scared the shit out of me. I can't lie to you. I think these next two movies are fucking scary. Stuart Gordon was the writer for the 1993 remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Love that movie. Sean Blue Digital. I originally set out to watch all the Amityville movies at that time. Didn't know there were 27. Oh my God. Yeah, no, you're a brave person, Missy. I don't know how you did it. Oh, yeah, the concept for those Amityville movies after 3, they're totally ridiculous and amazing how the titles are only attached. Yes, exactly. Just to sell it because you can't copyright the name of a town. This movie is really sad as much as it is scary. And I agree with that completely, and I really believe this. And I know I'm about to piss whoever loves Hereditary. I'm about to piss you off. To me, this is how you do dysfunctional family horror right. I read dysfunctional family horror because it's mixed in with cannibalistic exploitation, where this castle freak resides inside the castle. He's chained up. He's been tortured and whipped and beaten his whole life. He's been castrated since birth, and we get the backstory, of course, where the mistress was left by her beau, and of course she decided instead to take it out on the child, and of course she beat him and tortured him and castrated him and all of these things, and just absolutely did some horrific things to the poor kid while he was chained up in this dungeon. And of course, there's an amazing special makeup effect scene where the castle freak decides to break loose and he rips his own fucking thumb off. It's just an incredible looking practical makeup effect as he pulls his hand through and lets out a yell and a cry. There's some really good sequences where the blind daughter, here, kitty, 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 basically, here, kitty, 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 looking for the kitty. And the fucking castle freak that grabs the cat by the tail and just fucking eats the motherfucker. There's some scary ass sequences with the castle freak. I think it's such a interesting idea to mix a cannibalistic exploitation, sort of home invasion movie, sort of castle invasion movie where, there's somebody on the inside that's scary. But on the flip side, a family dramatic horror movie, about, the themes of grief, about the themes of withdrawal, about trying to move on from a past tragedy and escape the demons of your past, the demons of alcoholism, the demons that are eating him alive, as this movie progresses. And even the horrors of lack of sex, because his wife won't touch him, to the point where he goes out one night, Jeffrey Combs at the bar, he goes out and he hits up a prostitute. He says, hey, come back to my place. We'll have a good time. And of course, he takes this fucking prostitute back to the castle, bangs her, and he's Quick Draw McGraw in a few seconds. Fucking Quick Draw McGraw. He has sex with this lady, pays her a whole bunch of money. And then, of course, the castle freak is watching the whole thing and takes this lady in. And man, that you want to talk about some disturbing sequences. Talk about when the castle freak attacks this woman. Oh my God. At first, he's trying to get castle freaky with the fucking prostitute. He's feeling her up and she's like, and fucking sure enough, she's like, all right, like if I have to fuck this thing to get out of this, I mean, why not? She goes to feel, his yoo-hoo, and there's no yoo-hoo there. It's been fucking castrated since the kid's birth. So fucking she's like, oh shit. Like she's like, oh my God. And it's not funny. It's not funny at all. I shouldn't laugh because it's fucking disturbing. Like when I first watched this, I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Like what's going on? And of course, no, it's just fucking, there's just nothing there. And she's like, oh shit. Like I can't even do this. And of course, she tries to hit him with a wine bottle. And then of course, if you guys love Grande's Graveyard, you guys love yits. There is some yit biting in this movie. This fucking castle freak bites this lady's yit off. And she's like, ah! It's fucking yit biting. I was like, oh my God. And it's all practical. You never thought you're going to see practical yit biting in a movie, but here it is. And it's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's like, holy fucking shit. Like, this is crazy. The castle freak itself is such a scary fucking character to me. Because he is horny. He is misunderstood, but man, it's fucking so well done in this movie. I really like how Stuart Gordon tackles it. Let me get to the chat. I got a bunch of things going on in the chat. I think I'd mentioned this one from Trenchy. Stuart Gordon was also the writer of the family classic Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which I love, which kind of has some horror moments like the scene. Yeah, of course. And then, of course, the bees and all the insects in that movie. It could have easily been changed to a horror film. Tom is here. Hereditary is great. I'm just a Hereditator. I say Hereditary, Tom. But what? What's going on? Tom, welcome, my friend. But I really do believe the family drama horror element of this movie is done a lot better than that movie, and nobody ever gives this movie the credit. I really don't understand it. Oh, and also one thing, Tom. I know you appreciated the video I did on Grey House. I read a review today during my lunch hour, and I was reading it, and they compared Grey House to Ari Aster. They were like, this is if Ari Aster directed a play, it would be Grey House. Now, I don't agree with that, But that is a big sell point for a lot of people. So I don't know. Take what you will. I just thought it was. I was like, I thought of you, and I was like, oh my god, the Hereditator in me. I got to tell Tom. The scene where the cop is interrogating Jeffrey Combs about the missing prostitute who is the mother of the child. It's very emotional. Yes, it is. And did you kill her? I didn't kill her. I fucked her. And even again, Jeffrey Combs can be very funny, but it's very emotional. Where we understand that this cop may have had more than just a knowing this woman type of thing. Of course, yeah, he had a child with her that was on the DL. Hi, John and chat. Tom, welcome as always. Castle Freak took some time for me to grow on it. Didn't care for it much until I saw it being screened at the local theater. Really, 35 millimeter. That is awesome. I'm jealous. Prints in my area. Ended up enjoying it much more this time. Yeah. I think it's a fucking banger. I really, really enjoy this movie. I've always wanted to add the movie to my collection, but I can't find the cover with this. I want this cover. To me, it's such a great cover. I'm waiting for Edition to release it with that cover. I think they did years ago. There might be a DVD or VHS of that cover, but not a fucking special edition blue. And until that happens, no way, Jose. I'm waiting for that fucking cover to be on the special edition blue. Let's see. I agree, Grande. I think Lake Mungo also does Dysfunction and Pain better than Hereditary. I don't know. I just think that's a very interesting thing. Like you never think, when you put on a movie called Castle Freak, that you're going to get any type of family horror, drama, dysfunction. And that's basically the A plot of the picture. The Castle Freak's kind of in the background, slowly but surely easing his way into the foreground. I think that's why Castle Freak works. The Castle Freak is almost the secondary player to the horrors that this family has gone through because of the tragedy. I think that's what's always kind of garnered me towards, or gravitated me towards, Castle Freak. I think it's an interesting way. Hey, what's up, Tom? Was Unnameable the Stuart Gordon Lovecraft movie? It was not, even though, it was around, I think it was 1988. So it would fit right in. I mean, if you could easily watch From Beyond and The Unnameable, I mean, it fits right in. It was around that time, which The Unnameable, I have a soft spot for. I have a soft spot for The Unnameable. That prostitute got fucked by Jeffrey Combs in 5 seconds. He fucking quick draw McGraw. Then she got her fucking yits bit off, which was fucking terrifying. That poor prostitute, man. That lady was a trooper. Yoo-hoo, sure it's not a ring ding? I don't know. Nah, it's not Tom. Okay, yeah, so somebody else. Hey, Sean A. / Fred. We got a bunch of people. Let's see. The Unnameable was directed by some French guy named Jean-Paul Ouillet. I don't know how to fucking pronounce that. I'm not French. Let's see. Thanks, Sean. I liked Unnameable, and the creature looked fantastic. Yeah, it's not a perfect horror, but it does provide some bloody kills with cool atmosphere. Yeah, also mixing of the gothic vibe. That's amazing to me. I love the gothic vibe of this castle. Like, what a cool setting for a horror movie, right? We've done the mansion, the haunted house mansion 100 fucking times. Let's do a fucking castle. Why not? It almost, again, harking back to the Frankenstein theme, of this castle, gothic atmosphere. So you have so many, again, different themes here. You have themes of grief. You have themes of loss, alcoholism, loneliness. You have this fucking gothic tone setting. You have this exploitative cannibalistic castle freak character. I know for a long time there were some people that consider this the unofficial Hills Have Eyes 3. Of course, that is very unofficial because there's no tie to the Hills Have Eyes at all. I don't understand why anyone ever was like, oh, Hills Have Eyes 3, Castle Freak. But it was for a long time. In fact, like a lot of people would say this was the unofficial Hills Have Eyes 3. And now it's a different movie. Now that title's been passed on to another movie. So go figure. But I always thought that was kind of funny. Al Romero says, this disrespect for great Ari Aster and his modern masterpiece. Oh my goodness. Alf, are you a fan of it? I would love to see you review that movie, man. I'm always open to watching people review that movie because I don't think there's any movie in the community that I disagree with people on more because it's so beloved that I don't know. I'm not there. People will never be happy with anything. That's true. Didn't Charles Band own that castle? Yes, I was just mentioning that before. Charles Band was the owner, of course, and that's why they shot it there, just to cut costs. I mean, this was made for half the budget a decade after Re-Animator. I mean, half the budget of Re-Animator 10 years later. So you want to talk about, pennies and nickels. This was a cheap. Oh, I'm sorry, not Dagon. I'm fucking so used to holding something up. Castle Freak. I'll do the full screen here. Castle Freak was made for just the small budget. I think of about $500,000. I mean, it was really low budget film. So I mean, it is what it is. But man, I think they do a wonderful job here. I really like Jeffrey Combs has this kind of heroic arc in it where, you know, of course he starts off as this guy's down on his luck and he's feeling down on himself and he's alone and all these things. And it kind of works its way up to the final act where he has to save his family in front of the Castle Freak, and he has to kill the Castle Freak and fight him to the death on this castle, you know, and it's raining outside and it's really dramatic and, you know, epic, if you will. It's a very epic ending where the two of them are battling and he's trying to save his family and prove, you know, that he can have a redemption arc. And of course, the Castle Freak looks like he has rid of him. He grabs the chains and jumps off, you know, killing himself, but also saving his family. So he didn't die for nothing. And, you know, it gave his life purpose. Why did you walk away without a scratch? So you could beat the Castle Freak. So you could save your wife and daughter from being fucking God knows what by this fucking thing. I think that's great. I really like that. I know it's a little sappy. I know there's some people who probably roll their eyes in an ending like that, a big happy ending like that. But I thought it was really well done. I just thought it was such a strong ending to an otherwise banger horror movie that had a little bit of everything in it as well. Like, I just really enjoy this. Like, if you want a cannibal movie, yeah, Castle Freak applies. You want a gothic horror movie? Yeah, Castle Freak applies. You want that, like I said, the dramatic horror? Yeah, this applies. I mean, it has a lot going for it. And I think, you know, as Stuart Gordon, as a filmmaker, I would dare to say this might be his most well-rounded movie. I really like how well-rounded this is. Like, altogether, I think this movie is one of his best, if not his best. I really like Castle Freak. I think it just doesn't get enough love, personally. Or should I have said holy yits? Holy yits! You gotta love saying yits. I love the ending of this movie as well. It's really powerful. Yeah, no, so do I. I prefer Midsummer, but I'm a mark for anything Aster does. He restored my faith in modern horror. Fair enough. Dude, you're not alone. A lot of people feel that way. Definitely would love to hear you do like an Ari Aster retrospective one of these days. That'd be cool. I kind of wish they made a sequel to Castle Freak around the same time as the first film, probably. Dude, what I could not believe is they remade this movie, and I didn't know about it until I did show prep. I had no fucking clue they remade Castle Freak. It completely slipped my mind. 2020 they remade Castle Freak, and man, when I did the research, I was like, yo, what in the fuck? Like, what? They remade, of all the movies to remake Castle Freak? Like, really? I have no interest. I can't imagine it being good. I would assume I'd fucking hate it. It gets a really shitty score on IMDb too. Jeffrey Combs, Ultimate Sacrifice. Fuck yeah, man. Long live Combs. I got to agree with you there, Alpha, 100%. I still haven't seen anything from Aster that pissed me off like the other crybabies. Uh-oh, am I a crybaby? They made a remake 2020. Did anyone see it? It kind of wanted to watch it. Yeah, no, I have no interest in the remake. I can't even believe they remade it. I really can't. Yeah, Barbara Crampton remade it. Haven't seen it. Barbara Crampton directed the remake? What? No way. Are you serious? I have to look at this now. Did I fucking completely pass that over? Barbara Crampton fucking remade this. What are you talking about? I don't see anything. I just looked at her IMDb. Explain, Trench, because I don't see shit. I don't see. Unneeded remake wasn't very good. Okay, there you go. I just can't believe that of all things they would remake Castle Freak. It's just an odd choice. Like, I love the movie, but just surprised that we get a remake. I don't know. It's just very odd. But in my opinion, man, Castle Freak is as good as it gets, especially for a movie that did not go to a theater. I can't believe this didn't go to a theater, to be honest. Like, I think if they had the right distribution, this was a theatrical worthy movie. And unfortunately, it got dumped straight to video, I believe, on January the 1st of 1995. So very funny. But I don't know. It is what it is. Castle Freak is one of those movies that I think is undersung, and I'm happy I could give it a little bit of praise here tonight in the graveyard. Like I said, Combs is great. Crampton's even better. I think Crampton steals the movie. Love the mix of horror themes here, and I think that Castle Freak is a damn good horror movie, man. Highly recommend for people to check this one out if you have not already. I don't know if she directed it, but she was involved. I did not know any of that. That is wild. Oh, I always forget that Grande doesn't like Ari Aster. Oh, I am. If there's a hate club for him, I'm probably the president of it. I could be wrong, but I thought she was involved. Well, and hey, no, I believe you. I just did. I looked quickly and I don't see anything. Granted, I'm not gonna go into a whole witch hunt here. But I mean, I'll take your word for it. But yeah, so that is Castle Freak. And then we move on. Of course, 6 years later into another decade, right? We've been jumping around decades. We started in 1985, Re-Animator. We moved into the 1990s with Castle Freak. And then now we end with the movie that probably the least amount of people have seen. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I would assume most people have not seen this one as in comparison to the other two. And I think that's a damn shame because this was my introduction to HP Lovecraft. This was my introduction to Stuart Gordon. I guess I could give a brief kind of anecdote as to how I came about watching this movie. I believe I was at the ripe old age of 7 years old. And I was sitting home one day watching the Sci-Fi Channel, and this little movie came on from the year 2001, Dagon. And this came on the Sci-Fi Channel, and it immediately fucking creeped me out. And I was like, wow, this is really creepy movie. And I watched it all the way to the end, and I was like, wow, like that is a banger horror movie, very different from anything I had seen at that point. And that's when I went down the rabbit hole of trying to find more Stuart Gordon films. Then I found Re-Animator. Then I found Castle Freak. Then I found Pit and the Pendulum, Dolls. So many great From Beyond. So many great movies that he made. And then even the stuff after, like stuff like Edmund that would come a few years later, Stuck, which would come a few years later. It completely introduced me to Stuart Gordon, and I was like, wow, I'm so into this. So yeah, this was my introduction. A lot of people in the chat saying, oh, VHS of Re-Animator. No, fucking Sci-Fi Channel of Dagon, baby. That's what it was for me. But let's get into this brief plot synopsis. A boating accident ruins a young man and woman ashore in the decrepit Spanish fishing town, which they discover is in the grips of an ancient sea god and its monstrous half-human offspring, Dagon. Yes. So, fun fact about Stuart Gordon, and Mernsey says this right here. That's a sweet Vetron video release. You have Grande. That's a tough one to get a hold of. Dude, this is amazing release. And man, the features on this are fantastic, especially since I'm a big fan of the film. I'm so happy they put out a special edition blue of this. I believe Michael Felcher at Red Shirt Pictures, he did the features, did a wonderful job. Just so many great things on this Blu-ray to run home about. Sound design especially. Fucking my soundbar and subwoofer loved playing this movie. It was so much fun watching it last night. But no, my thing with this movie, what's interesting is Stuart Gordon wanted to make this as the follow-up to Re-Animator. When he wrapped filming Re-Animator and it did well, Brian Usna came to him and said, "Hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to make next?" And he said, "Dagon." He said, "I want to make Dagon." He was like, "We can't fucking make Dagon. It's too weird. It's not going to work. It's the 1980s. No, we're not doing Dagon." And basically turned him down. And of course, they did From Beyond instead, which many people would tell you for the better. I personally would have loved to have seen what this movie would have looked like in the 1980s, but at the same time, it's distinctly early 2000s. It has that feeling to it. It has that vibe, and it works there. But I definitely think this is a really good horror movie, and I'm excited to get into this one. Now, Stuart Gordon, of course, like I said, he wanted to make this right after Re-Animator, couldn't do it. It took, I believe, 16 years later until somebody finally was like, you know what, we'll fucking produce it. But we'll produce it only if you go to Spain to shoot it. Because if you've ever read the story Dagon or The Shadow over Innsmouth, which are the two stories that this is based on, of course, from HP Lovecraft, Dagon, the story is a 5-page tale about this guy who's a World War veteran, and he comes back and he's hallucinating and seeing these weird amphibious fish people in his dreams, and it ultimately leads him to kill himself. That's Dagon, the story. This movie is definitely more reminiscent of The Shadow over Innsmouth, which is the story of a man who goes to a town, and it's all about the fears of xenophobia, the fears of isolationism, the fears of being afraid of other people just because of their differences. And of course, the differences in that, they're weird amphibious fish people. I mean, that's fucking scary enough. At least it would scare the fuck out of me. If I went to a fucking town or didn't know where I was and everybody was half human, half fish, I'd be fucking scared too. I'm not going to lie to you. So that was really what he based it more on, but it was more of a Rhode Islandish setting. And of course, the producers and distributors were like, we'll do it, but you got to come to Spain to shoot it. So Stuart Gordon flies to Spain to shoot this with an all Spanish crew and most cast. I mean, most of the cast in this are Spaniards, but they all do a really, really good job. And I want to get some of their names here. Of course, you have Ezra Godden, who would go on to work with Stuart Gordon in the Masters of Horror episode he did, The Dreams in the Witch House. He's the lead in that. He's the lead in this. He does a good job. You have Francisco Rabal, who's amazing in this. He's really old man at the time of this, and he did a great job. You have Raquel Moreno, baby. Oh, yeah. Raquel Moreno is hotter than fuck. I maybe get a picture of Rick. I don't know. Maybe we can bring up Raquel Moreno. I don't know. But she is gorgeous in this movie. And spoiler alert, you get to see her yitties. Yes, Dagon. Dagon, let me tell you something. Dagon, he saw Raquel Moreno and he said, let me tell you something. That's going to be my sacrifice, if you will, Cody. That's a beautiful woman. You want to see a beautiful woman? Watch Raquel Moreno in this movie. Holy shit, that's a good-looking fucking woman, man. And then, of course, you have Macarena Gomez. Hey, Macarena Gomez plays the heel in this, the, sort of fish out of water, the half human, half woman, mermaid, I guess, creature who is beautiful on the top, but on the bottom has all these tentacles and whatnot. I really like the cast. I think the cast do a good job, and it's very interesting to take something with such a Rhode Island tone of the story and then all of a sudden shoot it in Spain, but it worked. It somehow works here. And of course, Dennis Paoli returns to do the writing of the HP Lovecraft script, and Stuart Gordon comes to do the direction. But otherwise, there really wasn't too many Stuart Gordon normal collaborators. Of course, he didn't have the same DOP. Here we have a very interesting camera technique here where a lot of this movie is handheld shots. A lot of it's like you could see at points the camera moving. There's no real dolly shots or tracking shots. It's a lot of it is with handheld. And for me, man, it really fucking freaked me out. Like, it adds to the uneasiness because the camera itself seems like it's scared. That's amazing. I really like that Stuart Gordon went for that style here to make it feel more uncomfortable, to make the isolation feel that much more unsettling. The camera's not even settled down. Very interesting. The movie opens up with a couple on a boat. They're millionaires upon millionaires. He's struck gold, business-wise. He and his partner, they're on a fucking boat, and they're, oh my God, we're so rich, we don't know what to do with our money. My girl, fucking Raquel is saying, hey, you have better things to worry about than work, and you should worry about me, which I fucking agree with, because let me tell you something, the company of Raquel Moreno, baby, I would not be doing no papers, if you will. I would be partying with Raquel all night long. Well, let's just be honest. But, it's crazy that he's a millionaire now. And all of a sudden, this beautiful, sunny, idealistic, perfect day turns dark, and it turns, foggy and mysterious and, unsettling. Out of nowhere, it's just the lights go out on this beautiful day. Kind of similar to what the weather we've been having. But I digress. The 4th of July, I digress. Fucking evil fucking comes right across their boat, and all of a sudden their boat gets stopped. And then, of course, they say, hey, we'll swim to shore. One of the ladies, she gets her leg pinned in, and of course Raquel Moreno and Ezra Godden, they say, hey, we'll swim to the shore. We'll swim and we'll see what's going on. So they swim to the shore, and they start to meet all of the inhabitants of this town, and they're all very fucking weird. Not to mention, some of them have amphibious features. The one priest, he has like the amphibians, the fins, I guess, in between his fingers, which is really creepy. Almost like the guy from Hellboy. I always remember that. You have some people they have masks over their face, or, their faces are like this because they're fucking more fish than human. They're hybrids, if you will. Of course, our couple gets separated, and man, some of the scare sequences that play out here are really well done. I love Ezra Godden checks into this hotel, and it's just creepy. I mean, black water, black ooze comes out of the sink. The bed is all covered in green, and he goes, fuck this shit. He's just like not having it. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, people are like watching him outside his window, and he's like, what the fuck? And all of a sudden they're in his room banging on the door and kicking the door in. He's running for his life. I mean, horrifying. I really think this movie has a very good use of horror. Like this, I don't know, maybe if it's because I saw it as a kid, it just scared the shit out of me. I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, this is uncomfortable, unsettling in all the right ways and places, man. I really enjoy how like, oh my God, it gives me chills talking about this fucking movie. And watching it again, especially this time on Blu-ray High Def, was incredible. I highly recommend this Vestron release. Like Mernsey said, it's a great, great addition. As this character is, trying to figure out what's going on, he stumbles across this old man, this hermit, played by, of course, Francisco Rabal, who I believe the film was dedicated to his memory, who plays the Ezekiel character. And he gives you the whole kind of story of Dagon. And I love the way he tells the story. He has this raspy voice, and I will keep my voice down. He's the last human in the village, and he says that their town was stricken by poverty years and years and years ago, and they needed fish, and they needed crops, and they needed food, and of course they went to church and prayed to God. They prayed, "Oh, praise be to Jesus! Oh, happy day! Oh, happy day! We need some crops. Give me some fish." Oh, we need fish. They needed fucking fish. And of course, they prayed to fucking Jesus and fucking Moses and fucking Allah, and they didn't get no fish, and they were fucking impoverished and famished and all these things. And then, of course, someone comes in and says, "What? Screw this God. Screw him. Screw the church. Screw this. Screw that. We need to pray to a higher power. We need to pray to something that will pay us off and will reward us handsomely. We need to pray to Dagon." And you get this whole kind of speech where this guy believes if they pray for this sea monster to come, they will get, they will go from rags to riches. They will go from, starving to full. They will go, from all of these, unluxuries to this luxurious life. And sure enough, they destroy this church. They bash in the statues. They smash the saints, all of these things. And of course, we get to the water, and all of a sudden, gold in barrels wash up upon the shore, and they're rich, and they have money, and they are partying, and it's a good time to be alive because you worship Dagon. And of course, all good things do not come without a cost. And of course, Dagon wants blood sacrifices, and he wants to fuck the women in the village, thus creating half human, half fish hybrids. And that's why this town over the years has become more and more and more less people, more half-breeds. And we get that amazing story, that amazing tale of Ezekiel, and how he tells that his parents did not give in, and they refused to give in to Dagon's blood sacrifice, and that they were killed for that. And Ezekiel cries over it, and, "Oh my God, my parents, I lost my parents. I loved them so much. They refused to give in. And so did I. And, I've been in hiding and all these things." And Ezra Godden reminds him, he says, "Hey, don't you miss them? Don't you think, what you're doing is surviving, but you haven't lived. You haven't lived since they've died. You're just surviving. That's not a life. What do you call that?" And I think he makes that character realize, holy shit, like he's right. Like I have to do something with myself. And then of course the two of them try to team up together and, find his girlfriend Raquel, or I guess played by Raquel. The character's name is Barbara. Barbara. There's a lot of Spanish. Of course, you can watch the Spanish dialect in this, because I think only Ezra Godden is like one of the only, American language speakers in this whole movie, which granted, the dubbing is fantastic. I will say that the dubbing in this is unnoticeable. But of course he finds Barbara, and then she's saying, "Listen, we're fucked. We're going to die. We got to get out of here." He also at one point visits, of course, the Macarena character. Hey, Macarena Gomez, who plays Yuixa Cambaro. Yuixa Cambaro. She is this, of course, first half beautiful. The rest of her is this all fish, amphibian tentacles, and it's weird. It's really eerie body horror scene where, come, you see me in your dreams. He keeps having these dreams of her, this wonderful blue scope that Gordon uses. I love how those dream sequences are shot of him making out with this woman under the water in his dreams. And then now she's appeared in front of him in this bed. And of course they're making out, and he's feeling her up. And all of a sudden he feels the scales. He feels the gills. What the fuck? He jumps off, and the blanket comes off, and she's got all these fins and shit. He's like, "Oh shit, bitch!" Like, what the hell? This was so awesome until you had fucking fins. Granted, I will never forgive this motherfucker. How do you cheat on fucking Barbara? How do you cheat on fucking Raquel Moreno? Oh my God, you deserve the fate you got, my guy, in my opinion. Granted, depending on who you ask, the fate wasn't too bad, in my opinion, at least. I don't know. He is freaked out by that. And then, of course, she comes and tells him, "Listen, you're going to live happily ever after with me. I'm in love with you. You've been seeing me in your dreams, not her." Even though he keeps saying, "Listen, let her go. You can keep me. Just let her go." And, she won't do it. And hey, Dagon needs her. Dagon has not had a blood sacrifice in over a year. And, it's her time. And he goes, fuck Dagon. And she goes, right, fuck Dagon. She's going to fuck Dagon. And he's like, what the hell, bitch? Like, no, like, let her go. And she's like, no, he's going to fuck Dagon and their child will live forever. She even tells him that. Like, this doesn't have to be sad. This is all about how you let it go. And she says, and me and you will live happily forever after together. And there's a fantastic finale where they're doing the ritual and they fucking, of course, Raquel Moreno, she gets naked and she's all chained up and it's very entertaining. And she's fucking screaming and all the fish people are around and chanting and waiting for Dagon to make his grand entrance. You have, of course, our lead who's trying to get to her and stop it. He's too late. There's an amazing scene of dramatic horror here where he gets to her too late and he kind of rolls the thing back up and she's covered in all this black tar and ooze. And you could just tell that she just got fucking violated by this fucking sea god. And man, her acting there is so good as he pulls her out of the water and she's just chained up. And he's like, hey, we're gonna go home. We're good. We're gonna be okay. And she's just like looking at him like, no, like I'm fucking done. Like I just got raped by a fucking sea god. Like I'm not just gonna sleep. I'm not just gonna walk this off. Like you have to have a little bit of fucking common sense here, my guy. He's like, no, come on, we'll get out of here. I'll burn them all alive. Fuck this. And I love she just goes, kill me. You promised you'd kill me. Kill me. And he's like, no, I can't do it. And then, of course, Dagon, before he has any chance to do anything, Dagon grabs her and rips her arms from the fucking thing. She goes right back down. And that's going to be Dagon's wife forever. And I don't blame you, Dagon. I would want Raquel Moreno to be my fucking wife. Just saying. Beautiful fucking lady. And, of course, he's like, oh, my God. Turns around and everyone's like, you have to accept your fate. Like, you're going to have to accept it. I know you don't like this, but she's gone now. There's nothing left for you now. Like there's nothing to go home to. There's nothing to set free. And of course he says, you know what? Fuck you bastards. And he covers himself in kerosene, lights it, burns himself up. Oh shit. He's burning alive. And of course, Macarena tackles him into the water and they both land below. He's all fucking mangled and charred up and all this shit. And she still accepts him. They start kissing. And she just kind of swims and she's like, follow me. And she kind of waves him on. And he has this kind of look on his face of like, there's nothing else left for me. This is it. I'm going to have to just settle for my life and embrace it. I'm with this fucking lady who they do also go in this very convoluted thing that it's his sister. So it's an incestual, half human, half fish, amphibious fucking relationship, which I didn't think needed to be in there, but why the fuck not? I thought that was funny. But I thought what was interesting was that final quote. They actually bring up Lovecraft. He goes, we shall dive down through black abysses, and that in that layer of the deep ones, we shall dwell amidst wonder and glory forever. That's an interesting quote, like a really interesting quote to like end your film on. I was like, wow, like that's just creepy, man, as they kind of swim into this black abyss. I thought that was just so effective. I thought Gordon did a wonderful job directing this thing. I really do. Like from top to bottom, it's a very uncomfortable, horrifying movie. And I like the flow of it. It's such an interesting film. It's so different from anything else he had ever made. And it's crazy to me that he had to wait 16 years to find a financer, and he had to fly halfway across the country just to get it done. And he does a wonderful job. And there's some great stories that he tells here in the interview with Mick Garrison. I will say this, if there's one knock I have on this Blu-ray, it is the interview with Mick Garrison and Stuart Gordon. It's not even, and the interview itself is great, but Stuart Gordon looked rough in the interview. And I think it's not long before he passed was where that interview was taken. And it's really sad to see him so old and run down and sort of lifeless. He was sitting in the chair, just lifeless. I was like, oh my God, this is so sad. But man, some of these stories he told were great. Like the scene where they were going to shoot the underwater dream sequence with Macarena. They didn't heat the pool. Somebody forgot to heat the pool that they were going to shoot it in. And they were like, oh my God, we're not acting today. We're going to take the day off. We have to lose a day of filming because of this and all this. And Macarena was like, why? And they were like, well, it's too cold. You're going to be freezing down there. And she was like, I see. And she fucking put her foot in the water and she was like, I got this. Let's go. Let's shoot. And apparently the water was like 35-degree water. Like it was apparently cold as fucking water. And like a champ went down there and filmed some of these scenes. I was like, yo, that's a champion. Fuck yes, Macarena. That is so fucking cool. I thought that was cool. There's another thing about this movie which I thought was crazy was it premiered in Spain Halloween night of October 2001. And now, of course, you think 2001, of course, September 11th was of course the previous month. And the premiere is in Spain. So of course, Stuart Gordon is back safe in his Los Angeles home. He has to make the decision. Do I go to the premiere and fly? And it was a big thing. Like the whole cast, he was like scared to go. He was scared to go to the premiere of it because he didn't want to fly. He was so scared of, what had happened at the World Trade Center. And his wife told him, she said, it's nothing, it's out of your control. There's nothing you can do. He's like, let's do it. Like you waited 16 years to make this. You're not gonna go to the fucking premiere. And of course he was like, you know what, you're right. And so they went to the premiere. He said it was very hated at the premiere, unfortunately. A lot of people, he said the first question I got asked, which I knew I was in trouble, was somebody raised their hand and said, why did you make this movie? And Stuart Gordon was like, shit, I pissed some people off. I didn't catch the right audience, or I didn't do the right thing. He was very doubtful of the film at first. But I dare to say, I think this is a damn good movie. Now, is it perfect? No. It has some really, and I mean really bad CGI. Like, some of the worst CGI you'll fucking see in a movie, like it's really fucking bad CG. But at the same time, I think a lot of it was done because of lack of budget. Now, on the internet, it says this movie had a $4.8 million budget. I don't fucking believe that. I don't think that if this movie had any more than 1.52 million, I don't believe that. There's no way they had more than close to 5 million to make this movie. It is so low budget. It is so like the cameras themselves look cheaper. The film really does look cheap, which is unfortunate because I think had you given him a budget, and let him really run with this thing, like have you given him a $20 million budget, Dagon might have been an epic. It might have been something even better than what we got. But considering the amount he was given, guy had a home run still. I mean, it's quite impressive. And man, I gotta say, even though the CG is quite bad, it's funny because I first watched this on the Sci-Fi Channel, and that's it's sci-fi CGI. Like it goes right in with any of those bad sci-fi original movies and the CG in them. It works perfectly for that. I mean, it's so weird how good the CG works with that stuff. With that being said, though, again, it's not ever done in points where you would see it as no reason to, like the boat, the shipwreck. Yeah, he films most of it, but then the underwater shot of the boat being shot, that's CGI. I was like, that's reasonable because that's a bitch of a shot. That you got to go underneath the water like this and fuck it. Like that's a bitch of a shot. That I get why you use CGI. The tentacle monsters, when they're in bed, they're, when they can be, they're practical, but there are scenes where the fucking lady, makes a run, Macarena makes a run, and it's really bad CG. Dagon itself is just a giant CG. I mean, the CG in this does hurt it, man. It does hurt it a little bit. But I really like the movie, but I'm sorry. I've been neglecting the chat for like 15 minutes. I feel horrible. Let me go back. Let me go here. Dagon is always so much money on Blu-ray, and that's why I don't own it. I forget what the fuck I paid for this. I got this a long time ago. Like I always say Vestron is like very fairly priced. Like that Silent Night, Daily Night 3-pack was like $12. And granted, those movies, the third and the fourth one are horrible fucking movies. The fifth one I kind of love with Mickey Rooney and the Pinot and the Toy Maker. I like the fifth one, but that like $13 Blu-ray, cheap. The Return of the Living Dead 3 they did on there. A lot of Yuzna films are on there. Of course, I think Blood Diner was Vestron. That one, for whatever reason, I never got because it was so expensive. Like I've never seen the Blood Diner Blu-ray for a good price. For whatever reason, I believe Blood Diner was Vestron. I like the company. I wish they put out more. Word on the street is, I don't know if Alpha Romero is still here. He might have heard my Hereta hate and just ran for it. But they're going to put out Bruiser is what the word on the street is. That's the rumor. They're going to put out Romero's Bruiser. Also on Tubi. Yeah, it's on Plex. It's on Tubi. You can watch this for free pretty much anywhere. So you don't really have to own it. I'm just a big fan, and I loved the special features. Like they did the interviews with the cast and crew. I was such a nerd for that. Interview with Stuart Gordon before his passing with Mick Garris. Loved to hear all these background stories of like how he desperately tried to get it made and nobody would comply, and he had to film it in another fucking country. But then again, it adds to the xenophobia and the isolationism. It's like, okay, to make a movie about xenophobia and isolationism and the fear of people, fuck it, we're going to shoot it in another country. It worked. Somehow it worked, even though you can't read Shadow over Innsmouth without thinking Rhode Island. They somehow made it work in Spain. Like I don't. It's so amazing how that happened. It's something he kind of fell into. Got to rewatch it, but sorry, not a big fan of Dagon. It's okay. The monsters look cool and the island town is creepy, but something about it just feels off to me. Doesn't quite hit this the way it should. I feel that. I think for me, the off that you're saying, I think it actually, and this will sound really fucking conceited. I don't believe this. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think it's on purpose that it's off. Like I think it's like the handheld stuff that makes it feel off. It doesn't feel like you're watching a movie at times. It really is a fucking interesting film, like look wise. It's like so shaky. You're like, what the fuck was he thinking here? But it works. It really, to me, it works. I think it's off for all the right reasons. If that makes any sense. I know maybe I'm fucking, put my foot in my mouth. I have I have the DVD, and I'm a casual fan of Dagon, but it's a fun movie for being from the actually 2000 it was shot and came out 2001, Halloween night of 2001. I'll give it another chance though. It just felt rushed to me. It was missing a little something. I feel that it's definitely, listen, I could see somebody loving Re-Animator and hating this, even though it's the same writer, same director, like come from the same mind. And this was originally going to be the follow-up, of course, until Brian Usna said no in 1986, and instead they do From Beyond. There's not much here that you would compare. Otherwise, I know some people say that Ezra Godden is like trying to be Jeffrey Combs because he looks like Jeffrey Combs. But then again, I don't know. I don't see that at all. He's definitely no Jeffrey Combs, but it would have been cool to see Jeffrey Combs in this. I think that would have worked. I don't think Ezra Godden's bad in it, though. It's got that Lawnmower Man CGI. It really does. It really does have it has some bad CGI in it, man. That's the thing where I'm like, yeah, I agree with people on that. Like, it really hurts the film. LOL, ouch, my eyes. Smash the like button. Absolutely, man. Thank you. Dagon is a good one to watch with Messiah of Evil. No, absolutely. I like Dagon. I had a fun time watching it last night. To me, it's still fucking scary. Like, I think it's a scary-ass horror movie. Grande, would you be partying with Raquel, or would your alter ego, Dusty Rhodes, be partying with her? I would party with Raquel. I would not be Dusty Rhodes around her, man. I believe she was my age. I think she was 26 at the time of shooting this. And man, I got to say, like, that is one of those in this movie. That is one of the most beautiful women you can imagine. Like, if someone said, "Oh, what's your type?" That Raquel fucking Moreno in this movie is my type. I did like the homeless harbinger guy. Yeah, me too. I thought he had a great heart to it. And they had so many nice things to say in the interviews in this. Like the cast and crew just put that guy way over. He was like a big veteran Italian actor. Only John Steele is here. Welcome, my friend. Only on the graveyard. I got to so many comments. I'm sorry. People saying hi. Lovecraftian lore is always interesting. Oh, absolutely, man. I had a fun time studying Lovecraft. Dagon is great. Love all those tentacle freaks, and the face peeling scene near the end is bonkers, dude. Absolutely. And then there's a crazy scene with that fucking face peeling where they peel this guy's face like an orange. Like, it's a fucking insane. They cut his throat here, and you're like, okay, they're gonna slit the guy's throat. They peel his whole fucking face off, and you're just like, oh my god, like, what the fuck, man? But yeah, no, I agree, man. I think the practical in this is so well done too. Like that, I know the CG, it's definitely going to turn people the other way. But man, the practical here is well done. I like the practical here, and I like the whole fucked up ending. And Stuart Gordon said this too. He's like, this is my version of Little Mermaid. This is a horror version of the Little Mermaid, and I agree. That's exactly what it is. Like at the end, it's just like, all right, that's it. Like, there's nothing else left for me. I might as well go on and live with you and bang you. That's it. Like, that's his realization. He's like, all right, I'm a fish too. Like, whatever. Fuck it. I'm in. I really like the ending. Dan is here. Grande. Dan, what's up, good brother? Hope all is well with you. Imagine being proud of something, and the first question you get is, why did you make it? Had to be crushing. Dude, it was. And the interview, he was like, he shook his head. He was like, man, he's like right there. I was like, he was hesitant that he didn't make a good movie. And, he was scared. And a lot of people did not care for it. I've read reviews online, quite harsh on this one, quite harsh. And okay, I can get not liking it, but hating this movie, I don't get at all. I will say, okay, if I'm Brian Usna, I can say one thing, and I'm not Monday Night quarterbacking this. I'm being completely fucking honest and not using hindsight being 2020 because I do like this movie. If you had come to me in 1986 after making this fucking movie and said what Stuart Gordon said, hey, I want to make a movie where the guy goes to a fucking village and the people are half fish and half human, and there's a big fucking god named Dagon, and it wants to fuck women and breed with them, and this lead guy is gonna fucking bang this fucking half fish creature and live happily ever after with her. Like, if I was a producer, I would have been like, wait a minute. I would have been like, that's not going to sell. Like, how do we sell that movie? Right? Like, I don't blame Brian Usna. I kind of feel like I would have said the same thing. I probably would have said, no, let's do From Beyond. And that's with hindsight being 2020, because I still really like this movie and I really wonder what it would have looked like in the 1980s. Because then all of a sudden you don't have your CG in there. There's no CGI anymore. And odds are you wouldn't have had to go to Spain to shoot it. But I do like the movie that we got. And I think the movie that we got is special in some ways. But yeah, no, I totally understand where Brian Usna was coming from with that. He was like, wait a minute, no, that's like not going to work. Like, how the fuck do you sell that? How do you, that movie, that doesn't sound appealing or appetizing. It just sounds weird. And it is. It's fucking Lovecraftian horror. What do you expect? I appreciate Stuart Gordon, man. I think he was a fucking good motherfucker, man. Yeah, Vestron releases have gone down in price and they're much more affordable now. But that first and second wave of Vestrons, yeah, it's true. That's definitely true. It was like the first or second wave for real. That's true. This film and the Lair of the White Worm are off in a good way. I think so too. I would completely agree with that. It's just a little bit off. There's not a lot of movies that compare to Dagon. But I think for good reason. I really like Dagon. Hey, John, go stand in the corner of the classroom trench. No, never. We love trench on here. I highly recommend this movie. Again, if you don't want to drop the dough on the awesome Vestron Blue, which I can understand. Unless you're a big fan of this, I could see not, just watching on Tubi or for free or wherever the fuck. But if you are a fan of this, the features are to die for. I wish I could have watched the commentary too, but I only have so much time in a week. The film was great. All the interviews were great. They interviewed Usna, even though he talks about he initially didn't want to do it and all these things that was 15, 16 years ago. You get, of course, a great sit-down interview with Mick Garris and of course, Stuart Gordon. Granted, Stuart Gordon does look really rough, but you get so many cool behind-the-scenes stories of this movie that I was like dying to hear. So to me, it's worth it. And the movie does look great. The sound design of this movie, especially, too, I want to mention that before I wrap here. Sound design of this movie is incredible. If you have a sound bar, if you have a subwoofer, watch this movie for it, man. I really am a big fan of Dagon. So highly recommend Dagon. I highly recommend all three of these movies, man. This is like, a really underrated horror filmmaker. Even though Stuart Gordon gets his love, he gets his due. I do believe that he really was a master of it. I really think that he was one of the best, man. And in an era of a Romero, of a Carpenter, of a Craven, of all these wonderful filmmakers that we all remember, I'd be remiss to not mention Stuart Gordon amongst those guys. I think Stuart Gordon was amongst those guys. And, man, he made so many great movies. He really never made a bad movie. I can't name a bad Stuart Gordon movie that I've seen. I really liked Edmund. I thought Stuck was a completely different, horse of a different color. I believe that was like his last movie. Really liked Stuck with Mina Suvari and the guy gets stuck in her windshield. I was like, how's this going to work? And it worked. It really worked. And all these movies I've talked about tonight, whether it be Re-Animator, Castle Freak, or Dagon, 80s, 90s, 2000s, Stuart Gordon was a master then, and he's forever a master. So may he rest in peace. We'll dedicate this show to the memory of the legendary Stuart Gordon, and of course, all of his wonderful Lovecraft adaptations to the big screen, or small screen, I guess. So that was the Stuart Gordon HP Lovecraft special. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was a very fun show for me, talking all things Lovecraft, talking all things Stuart Gordon, because I'm a big fan of both. And it was something that I'd been meaning to do for the longest time. And I just finally got around to it tonight. So, I'm happy that I was able to give this a shot. I'm not a fan of the Lair of the White Worm, but I love Ken Russell's The Devils That Made. Okay. I'm going to try and get Dagon on Blu-ray eventually, and just hoping to spend around 20 or less. That's probably the right price for it. Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. There's some of these are just too over. Great show again. Thanks for the birthday shout out. We'll rewatch the first half hour when I get up. Dude, man, happy birthday and good night, my friend. I hope all is well with you, man. That is so cool. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, my friend. Only on the Graveyard. LOL, Stuck is a true story. So bizarre, but it does work. Yeah, it somehow worked. I was like, how is this going to fucking work? And somehow it did, man. Mersey, 3 top-notch Stuart Gordon films. RIP to one of the best. What's your fave of the 3, Grande? Wow. That's really tough. It's either Castle Freak or Re-Animator. It really is. It's so weird because Re-Animator and Castle Freak work for completely different fucking reasons. I think you have to play it safe and say Re-Animator, but Castle Freak's 1A. Like, if this is 1A, Castle Freak's 1B. I think Castle Freak's the second best movie Stuart Gordon ever did. It's arguably the best. I mean, it's so fucking close to me. To me, and like I watched this Monday, did Castle Freak Tuesday, and then Dagon Thursday or Wednesday. And doing those back-to-back nights was so much fun. They're completely different. I think I have to lean Re-Animator. It's really hard. It's like, I think that's hard. I don't know. It's very close, but I'm going to go Re-Animator with this. So Re-Animator for me, Castle Freak a very close second. And I think Dagon is fucking damn good too. It's maybe not as good as a From Beyond or a Dolls, but I would say it's right. I'd say it's my number 5 favorite Stuart Gordon movie. It has that sentimental value for me. So I really am a fan of it. Bye, everybody. See you next week. Only on The Graveyard. Next week on The Graveyard. I have a couple of options. I know I put out the schedule. We were going to do Video Nasties. However, 2 weeks straight now, I've done 3 movie reviews, so I might just flip the Video Nasty special in the baseball top 10 movies, which I think would be fun. So we'll figure out which one I'm going to do. I'll make that decision Saturday. So we'll go from there. So I'm not sure what next week's show. It's going to be one of those two. Flip a coin, Grande to choose. I don't have a coin on me, but we'll go Re-Animator. It's close though. Alonzo 2-run dinger. Hell yeah, let's go, Mets. Only that darn typo. No worries. I knew what you meant. Take care, Graveyard Crew. Have a safe weekend. Absolutely. Take care, everybody. Cheers, Grande. Wicked show. Dude, thank you for your support as always. Humbling. Mets going to Met. Sean Blue Digital. I heard Phillies guy. But they're doing a lot better than us. So, I mean, it is what it is. But Mets going for their 5th in a row. So we'll see. Maybe next week we'll do the baseball movies. I don't know. It's either going to be next week or the following week. Right now, I have it next week, Video Nasties, and the following week, baseball. We will see. But everyone, thank you so much for watching. We will catch you next time. Cheers to Stuart Gordon, HP Lovecraft, of course, Brian Usna, Dennis Paoli, all these wonderful people that were involved in these movies because I love them all. But everybody have a safe, happy, healthy weekend. We will catch you next time only on The Graveyard. Too sweet, peace. Good night, everybody.